Hello again. So as we left off in the last video, I was starting to work on the door, and we did get it hung before we called it for the night, but we were out of batteries for the cameras. So today we're going to start with that, but first we decided we wanted to talk about window options, and we've got a couple of different ideas for windows. We've got a friend that she has a whole bunch of windows from an apartment remodel project, and we've bought 10 of them, so we were planning on picking some up for that, but those turned out to be a little bit bigger than what we're comfortable putting in this spot. So we've looked at a few other options, and we even looked at buying some new windows if we need to, but windows are apparently super expensive. I mean, a little like 2x3 window at Home Depot or whatever is like a couple $100, sometimes $300-400, depending on what features you want. So I think we've decided that we're actually just going to build a casement style window, and we'll put some shutters on it and put some curtains on the inside, and I'm actually going to build the window itself as a triple pane window so that we can use the center pane to put some stained glass into. And it might be mostly clear stained glass that's just there for shape and appearance. I don't know how much colored or solid stained glass we'll put, but we'll see how that goes. Here in the not too distant future, I'll cut the holes and get the main frame for the window in, and then we'll see where we need to go when I get more time after a wedding and after some dirt work and things along those lines. So some cross ventilation will help ensure that all the lumber inside is able to dry properly. So the first thing I'm trying to do with the door is figure out how badly it's hanging, because it is close to being where I want it, and we did square this up really well when we built it, and I put 5 screws in each corner, and the frame is made out of therefor, so it's a decently strong wood, but it is not oak or ash or anything, simply because I don't have oak or ash yet that I can build a door out of. So one of the projects this summer is going to be to gathering up a bunch of ash, and we've got a couple of oak logs that we fell an oak tree, and I've got a couple more in the barn site that need to come down. So I'll be able to harvest those, and most of the oak I think I will mill as 8/4, so 2 inches thick, which will take it a while to dry. I do hope to build a solar kiln in the not too distant future on one of the trailer frames that we've got, so that'll help speed things along once I can get that built, but that's just not one of the high priority projects. So at the moment I am using a piece of 1x6 as the template, so I can kind of get the angles figured out, and then I'm transferring that to a 2x6, and I'm intentionally making it slightly big so that I can trim that down and get as exact of a fit as I can. And then every time we do this, we lift the corner of the door so that it takes all of the pressure off to make sure that that's sitting in there properly. The challenge that we ran into is that it still hung just a little bit more loose than I wanted. It was actually the hinge that was giving a little bit. So I decided that what I needed to do was add a 4th hinge. So since I built the jamb, and I could just remove those screws and open that up so I can use the router to clear that out, made it really easy to to add that extra hinge. So there's a hinge at like a foot down from the top, another one at 2 feet down from the top, and then there's one at like 4.5 feet and 6.5 feet or whatever they are. But that did the trick. It helped tighten that upper area so it stays nice and tight when it's closed, and then the brace is helping to make sure that's hanging properly and there's no give in the right side of the door as it hangs there. I don't actually recall. Oh, the chisel. I had to go find my chisel so I could finish cleaning that out a little bit. And then I am using oversized screws. I'm not using any of the screws that came with these hinges. I'm actually using construction screws so that they can go all the way in. Like the door jamb screws are like 3 1/4, so that they're actually going through the door jamb and into the 4x4 post that's sitting there. So it'll be a good solid door. Now, because this door is built more like a farm door than a housing door, I got to experiment with how to actually close it, and I just threw a couple of blocks of wood with a screw so they'll turn and spin. So if we ever need to lock it from the inside, we can. But then from the outside, I'm just using basically a string tied to some screws to hold it in place for now. The next step, though, is I gotta figure out how to get the door stops in place. And there's definitely something to be said about using pre-hung doors. Just throwing it in there, shimming it up, leveling it, or plumbing it, and then screwing it in place has some definite advantages. But that's okay. And again, I'm just trying to make sure that everything is as snug as I can make it, making sure everything is an exact fit. And then once I've double checked to make sure that that's where it needs to be, then can screw it in place. There is a little bit of a space between the doorstop and the door. That way, eventually I'll put some weather stripping. Although, I guess in retrospect, since this is only a temporary door, just to have a door until I can actually build a oak door out of, oak, then I don't know, maybe I won't ever add any weather stripping. But eventually it will be sealed once we, do insulation and such. So this is the little blocks that I was telling you about. I used the table saw to just kind of square them up a little bit, mostly just to get rid of all the trying to wow, total brain fart there. Sorry. Make sure that it's smooth, since I don't have a planer and I didn't really feel like sanding it. I've got a I don't remember now. It's I think it's a 60 or a 90 tooth blade, so it leaves a pretty smooth finish. And I don't really know why I decided I'd throw 2 blocks in there. I guess just in case. Who knows? So now that that's all in place, I can get to working on the last of my siding that I've got milled up. I have, I think, I've got a few more boards actually on a pallet, but I don't think they are long enough to work for this, where I need like between 9 and 10 feet for the boards. So, but I might have to go take a look at those, and we'll see, because I only have, when I finish this, I only have about 2 feet left of siding that I need to put up. So that's rather frustrating. So close. I think we have also decided that we are going to eventually actually put some window panes in the sides of the door, where I'm putting the siding up right now. But at this point, the goal is just to get everything basically sealed in, and then I can, figure out exactly where the windows go and cut things appropriately. At the moment, I'm trying to decide how exactly I should handle the door jamb trim, essentially. And I decided that what I would do is just grab a thin piece and put it up, and then I'll put trim over the top of that. But at the moment, it doesn't look the prettiest. It's definitely a functional thing for now. And so now I'm going to figure out the little angled pieces that go across the top. I don't know if just the shorter siding pieces. And while I'm up there, I'll finish screwing the main pieces in. But these little pieces go really quickly because there's no measuring. That's a pretty nice feature for it. There is a little bit of a trimming that I do need to do, just because the first few pieces were going all the way to the roof, and these pieces ended up only going to the rafter. But then once they're down, it's pretty quick to figure out where they're at and how long they need to be, because I've got the measurement right there in front of me. Trim all them up and go throw them all in place. And now when the door is open like this and you can't see the gap there, it really feels like a little cabin or something. So the goal over the majority of the upcoming videos are going to be some of the DJ work. I know those aren't not everybody enjoys that, but I've got to get some speakers built, and at this point I've got all of the pieces cut to size. I got to build the track saw table, which worked out in most of the ways phenomenally, but a couple of ways that I should have changed. So we'll go over that in detail with that footage, but I got that built and then used it to break down all of the plywood into the actual pieces for the bigger pieces, and then used the table saw to do all of the smaller pieces. And I spent last night working on mostly with the router and the jigsaw, cutting holes and squares and things into them for handles and vents, and I still have a little bit of work to do there tonight, and then the hope is that it'll actually be accurate weather forecasts for the next couple of days, and I can get the carpet glued onto the speakers, and then this weekend I can plug in the amplifiers and test everything. That will be a big relief once we get that done. Then we'll spend a Saturday. We got permission from our bishop to go use the gym at the church and set everything up and test everything and make sure all of the backdrop works, make sure all the lighting is where it needs to be, how it needs to be, things like that. But we'll get some footage of that, and then after that is done, then I just have to build a throne / love seat out of logs, which was requested for the wedding. When we get to that point, then I can actually breathe a sigh of relief, because we're getting down to the wire at this point. I got about 3 weeks left of prep work, and I'm torn. There's a part of me that wants to wait to glue the carpet until I get really decent weather, because here in a couple more weeks we'll start to get multiple dry days in a row as the normal thing. We'll get it'll stay cloudy and cool, but come mid-May we tend to get things start to finally dry out on our property. The challenge is that I also need enough time for the contact cement to finish off gassing, because I don't want to bring in a bunch of speakers that smell like contact cement for the wedding venue. That would just make a pretty crummy night. So we're about to the point where we finished for the night. What we're going to do as this last step is we're going to bring the lumber for the plywood, the breakdown plywood table, into the trailer space, so that I can work on getting that cut down and turned into a couple of sawhorses with some rails that run between them, and have a little bit of a workbench, kind of. So that's what all of this that we're working on, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with those boards we're moving at the moment. Those are the temporary floorboards that we had been walking on, and they're all they were rushed, so they have a little bit more wave to them than is usable for a lot of stuff. But that's where we'll end for today. So thank you as always for watching. God bless you and yours, and stay safe out there.